BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Hey everybody, it's Lloyd Spence with BLEAV in the ACC, and get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. So head to the website and use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use the promo code BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BLEAV, B-L-E-A-V. It's BetOnline. It's where the game starts. You can tell them the noisemaker sent you.
Popcorn World. Popcorn World.
Can I make you groove now? Yes, I can. So you can get this groove in the back of a can. I can make it round the world when it holds in your hand. Popcorn World. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. That's that popcorn make you smile. Ah. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. It's a popcorn world. The popcorn world.
You're now listening to BLEAV in the ACC with Heisman Trophy winner and Florida State legend, Mr. Charlie Ward, Wave 3 TV, and Burn Creek Hall of Famer Kendrick Haskins, and Mr. Talking Noise himself, and of course Mama Noise's man, Lloyd Smith. And now, it's time for BLEAV in the ACC.
Hail, the gang's all here. We are back. And when I say we, I mean all of us. We got our Heisman Trophy winner back. We got our Hall of Famer back. I'm back. We're all back. Feels good.
Reunited.
Who's that? Was that Peaches and Herb?
Yeah, that's Peaches and Herb.
Okay. All right. What happened to Peaches and Herb? Where are they? Where is Herb?
Probably somewhere living off residuals from that one song.
He's hanging out somewhere, chilling. All right.
He's enjoying
What's going
life.
on? What's going on, Coach? How it's good to see you, man. You've been traveling the world.
Say again?
I said, what's going on, man? It's good to see you. You've been traveling the world.
I've been moving for sure.
He's trying to avoid that humble flex. I can see it in his face.
Listen.
Not sure about traveling the world, but I'm moving.
You moving, brother.
You all over the place, brother.
Yeah, you've had a busy summer, to say the least. And by the way, listen, if anybody, Coach, is going to get the humble flex, it's going to be this guy who's hanging out with Taylor Rooks and rappers extraordinaire. I mean, come on.
And that was a humble flex.
You already humble flex me
humble
last
I
week.
did, but he wasn't here. He wasn't here for it. So I wanted to
Yeah.
see how happy he is. See how happy he is.
That is not one humble flex. That is two
Humble flexes. Right.
So I'm getting humble flex for being invited to stuff.
That's usually how the humble flex works. I mean, most of the time, it's, you invited somewhere and things happen. So anyway, speaking of things happening, when we last left our soap opera, Kendrick and I were discussing that this thing about realignment in the ACC and the Pac-12 can happen very quickly. Little did we know it would happen within 24 hours. So let's catch everybody up to where we are today. So when the very next day after we got off the air and predicted that this would happen quickly, the Pac-12 was once again poached, and it dwindled from the Pac-9 to the Pac-4. So 3 more teams went to the Big 12. I think 2 more went to the
Big Ten.
Big Ten.
Big Ten.
And now they are down to 4 teams. And they've spent they spent all week scrambling.
Cujo didn't like that.
Don't like that the Pac-12 split up, right? So they spent all week trying to figure out what they were going to do. Then somebody got the bright idea on Tuesday. Why don't we send Stanford and Cal to the ACC? The ACC
Makes total sense.
Huh?
Because that makes total
It
sense.
makes total sense, right? So they got together last night in what on the surface looked like a pretty solid vote. And while that was floating out there, there were some other rumors about another team in Texas, SMU, making a jump over to the ACC. Notre Dame said, hey, we'd love to have Stanford and Cal. But about 8:30, 9 o'clock last night during the vote, something went haywire. And it went from almost a certainty to maybe not at all. So that's where we are this morning. We don't know what
couldn't get the numbers right.
Huh?
Maybe they couldn't get the numbers right.
Well, that's what we want. Yeah,
currently,
go ahead.
Because they're currently at what they're calling a money crisis shortage in the ACC because certain schools want more of the pie of whatever they bring in, a percentage of what was brought in, and they're complaining already about it's not enough for the schools they currently have. And so there's no way they can go and get another TV deal because they have a contract until 2037.
Yeah.
It's 2023.
Right. Those of you not aware, that's 14 years from now.
Who signed that contract?
Come on, people. Who signed that deal?
Who signed that deal? So I don't honestly at this point I don't know what's happening. This is the worst possible thing that could have happened. It was weird to me because I was under the impression that the Oregon-Washington thing wasn't as a lock as it became. And there were even reports coming out last Friday that Oregon wasn't as on board as people thought that they were. But I think that was a money play too, Charlie. I think they were just saying that they floated that story out there to make whatever financial stuff that the Big Ten needed to step up and do. They did it, and that behind closed doors, they got whatever they needed to work out. They got it all worked out. And so in the hour that they were releasing that story, 2 hours later, they were signed. They were going.
I'm wondering if that's what's happening here.
That's what I'm thinking too. I'm thinking the delay is financially related. Like you just said.
So tell me what is not money related?
Right.
Right. At this point, this whole thing is financial. But
well, even the teams, let's just go back to the teams that it's already left. Okay. I mean, before that kind of started this whole deal, Texas, Oklahoma. I mean, that was a money. I mean, all this is centered around how much we can get per our school.
Right.
I mean, there's some other things, that's in play, but the overriding thing is everyone's looking to see how much they can get per school because, I mean, our school's contemplating spending $126 million just to get out of a contract because they feel like they're going to be behind in 4 or 5 years from now, 300 to 300 million behind the schools and other conferences that are getting, 30 million more per year.
But Charlie, I want to ask you this question while you're on that topic in that place. I want to just add this to what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong. But the 120 million, does that come with the grant of rights or no?
No, that's the negotiated price.
That's what I thought.
think.
That's what I thought. So why pay the money if you still don't have the grant of rights?
I I just think it's I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's a wise move because you're gonna end up whatever extra you make on the outside, you're gonna end up having to pay it back.
You're
You
still
know,
splitting up your pie, right? So
I'm thinking if
Right.
they think they can be able to buy themselves out, somebody is telling them that they could probably win a grant of rights suit.
in a court of
That's what
law.
that's what I'm thinking. Somebody's telling. I don't know if
yeah.
that's true, but I think that's what's in their minds.
Well, the reports are coming out from the meeting last night, and again, it wasn't good. You need a 12 out of 15 majority to bring them in, these university presidents into this situation and bring in new schools. They didn't. I don't think they came close to that. Now, what I think could possibly be happening is that these schools are looking at it, and I'm gonna list the ones that I think with no information. This is just Lloyd Spence out here guessing. I think Florida State, Clemson, Miami, dare I would say Louisville, the ones who have the stronger football programs, if I can say it that way, which is kind of insulting to the ones that don't, but the ones that have the stronger programs, I think they're having their own version of discussions, and they're saying, if we bring, like Charlie said, we bring these guys in, all we're doing is just splitting the pie. One of the statements that came out of the meeting last night in the interviews was that what is the added value of bringing Stanford and California to the ACC? What's the added value? Now, from a women's sports perspective, it's a phenomenal value. It may be, it could be the greatest value that we've ever seen because top to bottom, I think the women's side would be as dominant as there could be in college basketball, college sports, not just college basketball, but in college sports, period. But from the men's side, I understand the question. Like, nobody's clamoring to see Stanford games. Nobody's clamoring to see Cal games. And they're not even clamoring to see it if you put it on the existing deal on ESPN. How many people are really going to block out a Saturday afternoon to watch Stanford play Virginia Tech?
But,
Not many.
right. I think the added value is if Notre Dame comes on board, because Notre Dame is pushing for Stanford and Cal. So that's the value. And I'm wondering if maybe the holdup is, all right, Notre Dame, we'll do this, but you're going to have to join.
But you got to commit.
You've got to commit. And maybe I'm thinking that could be the holdup.
Well, but there's 60 million reasons why Notre Dame would not do that.
I think at this point, if you're the ACC, you let them keep their $60 million and bring them in at this point if you want to keep the conference together.
Yeah, but how upset are the people at Florida State, Clemson, and Miami, and even Louisville going to be if they're giving?
They can't go anywhere, so they just got to deal with it.
Saying to Notre Dame, we're going to give you $90 million and make you the highest paid university in the country if you just come bail us out.
I mean, you can negotiate it down. You can negotiate the part down that they get from the conference, per se. But at this point, look, the teams in the conference, they don't really, there's nothing they can do. They can't go anywhere. And so,
see, remember we talked last week. There is one thing that they can do. There's only one play.
Yeah, they can blow it up.
They can blow it up.
I don't think they're going to do that though, because they don't have land in place. I think that's kind of what Florida State's holdup is. The reason why they haven't really pushed it, because the SEC is already like, we're good. So their hope is the Big Ten, but maybe the Big 12.
but I think the Big Ten is a viable partner, or the Big 12. Look, well, listen, the Big 12 wanted Louisville before, and then something went down
I
with
think
Gillen.
Big Ten wants if Big Ten. I feel just to me, in my opinion, I think if the Big Ten goes after anybody in the ACC, it's
They
going
go
to be
after
Miami.
Oh,
No, it'd
Miami,
be Miami because of the Miami market.
right? Charlie, what are you thinking?
I just think this is all it's turned into a business, big business, and it definitely has gotten away from what it used to be in a lot of
It's got
ways.
away from making sense.
Yeah, and um, and it's and it's kind of the driving force for a lot of things, when it comes to partnerships is, how much can we make from a business standpoint. And I mean, I understand it. Uh, do I agree with it? I mean, I'm a traditionalist,
Right.
but of course, as a traditionalist, you also live with the times because this is a time where realignment and everyone's trying to one up, you know, everybody and trying to get on the same page as the one that's the quote unquote feel like is top dogs. And but what different is this than um, superstars in the NBA saying I'm going to go over here and play with
And
my
play with my
buddies,
friends. Right, right,
uh,
right.
and and we're gonna do all we can to win a championship or just because I want to move. I mean,
Right.
this
That's
is
a great point.
essentially what this is.
Is
Can
it
I
that? It's that mixed with coaches who jump around, mixed with the players now jumping around and transfer portals. Like there's no loyalty to anything anymore. There's no
speaking of
loyalty
No,
to tradition. There's no loyalty to anything.
speaking of players jumping around, I had this thought earlier this week when some of the news was breaking about the SMU and all the other schools. How are you supposed to recruit now to the ACC?
No, it's you don't recruit your conference. You're not recruiting to your conference anymore. You're recruiting to your school, and that's it.
That's now,
Your NIL possibilities, and that's it.
but here's and I agree with you 100%. I think you're one spot on with that. The challenge of that to me that is in that recruiting process is that one of the selling points you could say at Florida State, at Clemson, at Miami, at Louisville, whatever, is that you're going to have the opportunity to play for a national championship. That may or may not be true.
I don't think they're selling that dream anymore. Maybe I think they might be selling a national championship dream in the SEC and
No,
maybe the top tier of the Big Ten, but
no
like for most of these schools, and maybe I can see Florida State being the type of school that's selling national championships because they've got so much tradition. But if you're a school like Louisville, if you're a school like Georgia Tech, if you're a school like Virginia Tech, so on and so forth, I don't know how much you're really selling that national
how
championship
can you
dream.
sell it? You
I
can't sell it.
think you're selling the NIL.
This is a wild set of circumstances that we're dealing with now.
but
And
of course this is good. This is good media. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it's
good
great.
for
It's
media
content.
for TV,
this is the only
and
thing that has basically saved the summer.
Right, it's content. I mean,
Yeah.
and I just hate again what's going to end up happening is this is very similar to adults issues, and the people who get thrown into the middle of it are the
the
kids.
kids, yeah,
The
yeah.
kid, yeah.
And so now
Charlie, you dropping
let's just
bars
say
today.
it's Florida State. Let's just say it's Florida State since we're out there.
Yeah.
Now the players have to answer these questions about
Right.
whether they're going to move or what do they want to move. All these types of things, and it's far from what they should be talking about, which is what their team's doing, and
Mm,
even to have to answer one question about it is just not right. But you know, I'm sure they prep the players on their answers and
hmm
things, which that's just good preparation. But just to have to answer any questions about this, is to me just putting the kids in a bad situation. But I mean, I understand it, what they're doing, why they're doing it,
Right.
because as I always say, the more money we have, the bigger our barns can be.
Charlie, to your point, I
Charlie's dropping an album
he's
today.
dropping he's because these bars are solid today. To your point, Charlie, and to yours as well, Kendrick, we're 3 weeks away, less than 3 weeks away from the start of college football. And I've seen no public national media broadcast talk about anything related to the field. Nothing. There's been no conversation whatsoever about players, about who's the best team, about who's up for the Heisman this year. None of that. This is dominated. So to my point, my point is, how can this be good for college sports, or is it good for college sports that this has dominated the headlines as opposed to the actual product on the field?
I mean, I guess it's good for college football, but that's it. And like, it's one of those things. With football will be fine. Basketball, for the most part, from on the men's side, will be fine for most. But the sports you got to think about are the Olympic sports. I mean, Penn State's volleyball team going all the way out to Oregon for a game. I mean, that's tough.
Insane.
That's insane. I mean, and actually, that would be a great matchup. but I mean, that's insane. Like,
but Penn State's going to lose because they've just traveled 3,000 miles to go play a volleyball match. That's insane.
But then you think about the possibility of Stanford and U of L women meeting in the ACC, and it gets you excited. And so there's that part of it too. There is an element of it like you kind of like, some of this stuff could be cool, but it makes no sense for the like the Clemson softball team to be playing in Palo Alto stuff like that. It's just none of it makes sense for the other sports, but it all makes sense for football, but for the other sports, it really doesn't make sense.
Yeah. What are
I just go ahead. I'm just curious to know, like, if this is what this is. I would love to be in those meetings just to hear.
That's where I was going, Charles.
What is being said and the reasoning behind why some of these schools are leaving to go and join a conference. I just think there's the way I would look at it is, even I know that every team's supposed to play in like the Olympic sports or even basketball. Every team normally plays everyone in the conference at some point, if it's one game or two games. I just think it makes sense to have a West, if you're Midwest or say Big Ten, kind of splitting up those games with the West teams playing each other, and then having a crossover game, two crossover games from different time zones. I'll just say that.
Right.
And making it a little bit simpler to where you have your rivalries, but you also have the crossover games, and it's not like every year. And so, for instance, like we talk about Louisville, Stanford, them not playing every single year,
right?
But playing once every 2 years, or whatever it is. And I'm just saying that because that's tough, or doing playing teams on the West Coast, and you're out there for a week, because now with what is it, online, you can still get your work completed and done, and so you're on the road for a week playing on the West Coast, as opposed to traveling back and forth. So I think they're. I mean, just like anything else, when it's all said and done, you get it figured out
Yeah.
and worked out, and then you kind of go from there.
There's one part that I don't understand, and I'm not sure how it can be worked out. Because obviously, one of the biggest rumors surrounding all of this realignment is that there's going to be a defection and a massive ultimate defection of the top 64 to, dare I say, 80 teams, and they're going to defect from the NCAA and create their own whatever. Now, let's play that out in real time. If that is true, and the basis of this defection is the ACC, is the Big Ten, is the SEC, is the Big 12. How do you do that and retain the rights to your own individual? You know what I mean? Like that gets a little murky as well, doesn't it? Because the TV rights of all of that, coupled with whatever, because I guess the question I'm asking is, are any of the NCAA deals or are any of these deals tied to the NCAA and they're routed that way? So is it like the conference is under the umbrella of the NCAA gets its cut or whatever that is, and then that's how that works? Or would they be defecting collectively to say we're going to do our own thing, which essentially pushes the NCAA out, having to do their own thing? I'm just curious how that works.
It's something that I think somebody way more intelligent than I am is going to have to figure out. I don't know how it all works either. I think that this defection, we've been talking about an eventual defection for close to a decade at this point.
Yeah, but it never seemed real until
it doesn't seem.
All of a sudden, it seems real.
I won't go as far as say it seems real. It just seems more fathomable to me. I'm kind of to the point now though that it's such a slow moving process. It's going to take so much stuff to happen for it to happen. I'm not even sure we'll see it in our lifetimes.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is when the dust settles, and if there is an ACC and they become the fourth, which it appears that may or may not be what happens, then that leaves you with 4 conferences filled with as many as 14 to 16 teams apiece. There's your 64. Now, if they all say, we have decided we're leaving the NCAA to do our own thing, well, ESPN is going to follow, CBS is going to follow, NBC is going to follow. They're not going to, Fox is for sure going to follow. They're not going to stick around with the NCAA with all these second, third, and fourth tier teams. They're going to go where this.
And you just brought up something that I kind of thought about, and is kind of going back to Notre Dame, is the NBC factor in all of this, because the NBC's now showing Big Ten games this year. So I would think that NBC is going to try to push Notre Dame to the Big Ten, and honestly, Notre Dame makes more sense in the Big Ten anyway. But
well, for NBC, the ACC football wise makes 0 sense. It benefits them not at all. Other than that, the path might be a little clearer for them to get to a national championship game, but maybe not if you're voting. Maybe not, because are you going to put an undefeated Notre Dame team that beat Florida State, Clemson, Louisville in over and a Tennessee team that beat Alabama, Auburn? You know what I'm saying? You're not going to. It's just a weird. It's a weird mix right now, and the
very weird
mix is what makes it interesting.
Well, I would think with all this expansion, and I'd love to hear what Charlie thinks, with all this expansion and stuff going on, they're going to expand that playoff some more, don't you think?
Well, they're going to 12, right?
I can see them expanding it even more
to 16.
Because these conferences is going to, at this point, but I mean, it's going to be, the thing is, it's going to be 12 to 16 teams from like 2, maybe 3 conferences. You know what I'm saying?
And that's exactly what I'm saying. Go ahead, Charlie. I want to hear your thoughts on what we're talking about here.
No, I think I heard Greg Sankey the other day talk about having to go back to the drawing board with the CFP
Yeah, for sure.
with all the expansion and looking at the whole deal because the Pac-12, I think in the 12 team playoff, they had the Pac-12 as one of the teams that got an automatic bid.
Right.
And so now that there is like zero,
How's the Pac-4?
teams, 4 schools left.
Now go to like the
left
Big
in the
Ten West.
Pac-12. Yeah. So I think that's what he's referring to is now you have 4 conferences, and I just think if it's 4 conferences and say you're in the ACC, which seems to be, I'm gonna say, the less cluttered from a football standpoint, less cluttered when it comes to your top tier teams.
Right.
The easiest type of route to the CFP. I mean, financially you may be behind, but from a competitive standpoint, you may have an upper hand in getting in some of those, at least getting in the tournament. And also, if you're the top 2 in football, you're more than likely going to get in because that means you beat everybody else and there are no divisions anymore. So if you get 2 teams at the top that's beat each other, you got 1 loss. And 1 loss teams, and then on the other side, you got all the other conferences. They may have 2 or 3 losses because they're playing, tougher competition, more tough competition, throughout the year, and it's just that deal. And so I just think if you are in the ACC, from a competitive standpoint, you may have a better upper hand when it comes to football of getting 2 spots in the CFP because, like I mentioned, the scenario I just mentioned, and the other teams is going to be attrition.
I asked this question last week. I'm gonna close this segment of the discussion out with the same question: is there a path for the ACC to save themselves?
I think right now the path is they've got everybody locked in. It costs too much to leave, so that's how they're gonna save themselves until 2037.
But I don't think that. Go ahead.
I think these talks are going to force somebody to show their hand or come to
I agree.
the grips that we are behind and we need to do extra to catch up because our schools in ACC, let's just use ACC, our schools are going to fall behind from a financial standpoint, and the closer it gets to 2036, and this may be 3 years from now, and the price point is not 100 million to get out, then they're going to start by that time. I mean, they're going to be way behind, and hopefully they've come up with another revenue stream to be able to help the schools out if they're forward thinking.
Yeah, I don't think any of these schools, and when I say any, I mean the ones we consider the top programs all the way across the board, not just football, but all the way across the board. I don't think any of them are going to wait till 2036 to solve this problem. I think it is more likely that those guys are having their own discussions with these conferences and saying, because one thing that the Pac-12 has just proven to us, the last man holding the bag is the odd man out.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? In this game of musical chairs, those 4 teams are sitting there looking at each other going, how did we not end up with a chair? And then,
yeah, right. It's like musical chairs, and like, how are we the ones sitting on the floor?
Right. How did end up with a chair? because I know Stanford woke up the next day going, "What just happened?" We were talking about signing with Apple. How did it go from signing with Apple to we're out? We're basically we have
we're basically homeless.
We're homeless. They overnight they went homeless, and so I
wonder.
So,
go ahead, Charlie.
Let me ask this question: how much was the Apple deal?
See, that was
they never did have a number, did they? They never did come to.
They never came up with a number, and here's what made it even worse, Charlie. Here's what made it even worse. The deal included the contingency of people signing up for Apple to watch Pac-12 football. Well, who was going to do that once the top tier teams left?
I think what they did is they just basically took the draft from the Messi contract, with Inter Miami, and trying to throw that in there for the Pac-12, because that's what essentially Messi's contract with Inter Miami is through Apple, through subscription, that people are signing up for Apple to watch Messi play.
Right.
And so if it sounds very similar, it's like, okay, well, how many people are you going to bring over? And I think deep down, Apple was like, they're not bringing nobody over, but we're going to go ahead and make this offer just to put it on the table, see if we can get them for cheap. But then before that could even happen, the rest of the conference left except for those 4 teams. But my question is to both of y'all too. We know how much our elected officials love to grandstand. At what point is one of these states gonna have an elected official, a congressman, whatever, grandstand on this, and then this becomes even bigger than just being within college sports and being an even bigger issue, and then all of a sudden you have the federal government involved, because it's going to happen.
Great question.
Only reason why it hadn't happened yet is because the SEC is solid. Because if this was an SEC school, in trouble.
We've had several politics.
If this was in Alabama,
I fully expect a noise to come from South Carolina or Florida any day now. I fully expect it, because
it'll be Florida.
Why?
Just because I think Florida, and I'm speaking for your team, and Miami, they have the cachet to make a move. Clemson has the cachet to make a move. Technically, and this sounds terrible, but it's the truth. They don't need the ACC. No. The ACC needs them.
Right.
So they have a lot of leverage in that regard. And so if Clemson publicly said, we want out, SEC, Big 10, Big 12, one of them would come knocking on the door and say, we have a home for you. Come over here. Come over here. We'll love on you, and just come on over. It's fine. We understand what you've been through.
But like I can see, and honestly, as much as grandstanding gets on my nerves, it does kind of make sense. I can see the platform for them, and only for Miami and Florida State, because like you said, those are entities that are bigger than the ACC, especially when even bigger than Clemson. As much as success Clemson's had recently in football, down the line in all the sports, I mean, Miami's had 2 teams in the Final Four this past season. Florida State basketball has been a powerhouse. Florida State women's basketball is on the come up. Florida State soccer. And so down the line, Miami and Florida State, they have a legitimate case to be like, you are holding us back from making money. So I can definitely understand why a congressman would step in and and grandstand at this point.
And I think they'd have a legitimate case, because they're not wrong. Because if you snatch Miami, Florida State, and Clemson out of the conference, with all due respect to Louisville, what do you have? You have you have Conference USA.
Don't talk it up now. Don't talk it up, because you know here in Florida, we good for stirring that pot, baby.
Okay. That's what I'm saying, Charlie. That's what I'm saying.
24 hours a day.
That's what I'm saying. I think
they just haven't gotten around to it yet. They're coming.
I think we're days away from it. I just don't believe they're gonna sit pat for 14 years and allow this to happen because there's an ego. There's the other part of this that we don't talk enough about. There's an ego involved in all of this. And some people are having ego about it that don't deserve to have the ego about it. I'm looking at you, Washington. But some people have the ego and they absolutely have the right to. Let me tell you something. Right today in real time at 8:41 Central Time, 9:41 Eastern, Florida State and Miami and Clemson are vastly more valuable than Vanderbilt. Vastly more valuable than Rutgers. You know what I mean? So then Maryland, for God's sake. So they have a legitimate beef. They have a legitimate beef. So I think the ACC, the only play they have left at this point, they got to get Notre Dame in. And Kendrick, you may have hit it on the head, although if Notre Dame pulls this off, this will be by far the most gangster thing that has ever happened in college sports. But if they pull off to keep their $60 million and an additional $30 million from the ACC, wow.
That I couldn't see them getting additional $30 million.
I don't see them getting the additional 30.
The top tier teams in the ACC currently are trying to restructure that whole pay system. And so that's, like if you earn it, then yes. But if your program is,
so Boston College would be happy they're going along for the ride. That's basically what we're saying. Boston College, y'all just be glad that somebody even wants you in their conference, right? Because that's what we're talking about.
I mean, baby, yeah, we're talking about Boston College. We're talking about Syracuse. All these schools.
Now the conference is going to go have a top-heavy model. Woo, this is a lot.
The schools I feel bad for, are the Western Kentuckys of the world. You know what I'm saying? The whole MAC conference. I feel bad for them because the MAC conference is such a good conference. It's a good athletic conference, and they're competitive in every sport, but they're not that tier, and they're not going to get that kind of money to become that tier. So what becomes of them? Do they go up? Go ahead, Charles.
I was going to say they why don't they just go to the Pac-12? And I would go after North Dakota State, South Dakota State, San Diego State. San Diego State,
San Jose State. They had a good year last year.
All them schools. I would go after them. Hey, they may get it. I mean, they got the Apple deal, and if it's that deal that you guys talked about, why not go and they may get like North Dakota State. They get more eyes. They would be one of the top teams of the conference.
And tell me again what the NCAA does. I'm confused. Like, what is their role? Like, what are they supposed to be doing to help me do this?
I've always wanted that.
I just know that they didn't grant a waiver to my man Daryl.
Yeah, that's what Jackson. The NCAA does. It's stuff like that.
Charlie,
that's what they do.
Charlie, you got me on my soapbox. When I tell you, I saw that story, and I want to go through the roof because that is the most ridiculous thing ever. So the man has a dying parent, and you can't grant him a waiver? Really? Well, man, come on, man. This is the kind of things that make you. This is why I think this inevitable thing of them separating is going to happen. It's stuff like that because that makes zero sense. That makes no sense whatsoever. So, okay. Enough of that.
I agree.
Yeah. I got a couple of little extra things that I'm curious about just to get you guys got your opinions. And this is an ACC show, so this should be fun. What NFL player do you think is going to former ACC NFL player do you think is going to have the most impact or a huge leap this season in the NFL?
I got two.
I like Kenneth Pickett.
Okay.
Um, of
What are
course,
my
as you know,
pays?
he's he's uh he's much better because he gets to get the play called in his helmet,
Yeah. Then have
and
to look
he's
to Mike Tomlin for the plays.
yeah, you don't have to run to the sideline and get the play and then run back.
Right.
That just helps tremendously. But
I miss that.
he's
I miss that so much. We need Pitt
but
football to
he's
come
a
back immediately.
Charlie, I do not support that, Charlie.
yeah. But but I think he has a good year. I mean his year. I think he has a breakout year this year because he's going to be the main guy.
Yeah.
Uh, I do believe, and if he
Then
stays
that's my
injury free, I
shoulder.
think he
Yeah.
will have a be quiet, be good.
Okay.
But I also like my man Zay Flowers.
I tell you, man,
I think he's in Baltimore, right?
Zay could not have fallen into a better situation if he tried. He is in Baltimore, surrounded by weapons.
He
He
can learn,
will.
and he can learn under Odell.
He'll learn under Odell. He'll see. You know what Zay's going to see for the first time in his career since college? Single
Single coverage.
Single coverage.
He has never seen. He has no idea what single coverage looks like. And he's
And
finally going to see single coverage.
he's only going to see it for about 6 games.
Oh, yeah. If you're picking him up in fantasy, you got about a 6 weeks window where he's going to put up some ridiculous numbers.
And piggybacking off that, you said the ACC. I said 2. Yeah. Zay's 1 and Lamar's the other.
I fully expect them to flourish tremendously this year. Man, I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to him. And then I'm going to say something very strange here, something very unexpected. I'm very curious to see.
I already know where you're going.
Sam Howell deals with Eric Bieniemy.
He better deal with him.
With Eric Bieniemy, because clearly something is wrong. And for the head coach to come out and say, well, I told the players they just need to talk to Eric. What? Why are we putting that in public? Why are we not having private conversations about that? Ron Rivera coming out to say what he said about Eric Bieniemy is the most bizarre thing I've seen in a coach speak in a long time.
Washington is just keeping up their recent history of ineptitude.
I guess they're saying if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We've been
or if it's broke, let's just keep on breaking it.
Right. Break the other side.
I mean, hopefully Magic can come in there and have some true impact on decision. Actually, I don't hope that. because if he comes in there and makes a real positive impact, that impacts the Cowboys. So go ahead and just keep being ridiculous.
What were you about to say, Charles? Sorry.
So what? I missed it. I missed it. What happened?
Oh, you missed it? Okay. Well, let me bring you up to speed. So Ron Rivera earlier this week comes out in a press conference in the most random of ways and says some of the players were having issues with the way they were being coached by Eric Bieniemy. He's too tough on us. He's too hard on us, and he just needs to ease up. And we were like, why would you say that publicly?
So he said that the coach needs to ease up.
Well, he said
the players said
that he needs to ease up, and so Ryan said, "Well, why don't y'all just go talk to Eric?" So he played out the whole conversation, this whole private conversation, to the media, which made zero sense to me because there was no reason for him to do this. There's no reason for him to do this. And then he came out yesterday and apologized and said, well, I put my foot in my mouth and I misspoke. No, you didn't misspeak. You just something is behind that. I'm convinced there's a reason why he did that. I just don't know what the reason is. But I think
my thing is, if these players are complaining, and you're Washington, and you've got a coach who was just with Patrick Mahomes.
There you go.
5 AFC championship games
2
in a
Super Bowl
row.
rings. He's got 2 Super Bowls.
2 Super Bowl
coming
rings.
off of a Super Bowl.
He literally just left the Super Bowl 15 minutes ago.
Wow.
I saw a statement that says something like this, that accountability is not a personal issue. It is an issue to push you forward. And so when someone's holding you accountable for things that they see in you, it's not a personal issue. It is an issue of them trying to help you develop and grow. And so
Right.
you can't sit there and take it personal. And once guys get to a certain level, they feel like they can't be held accountable. Then that's where you start to decline. You're not going to grow if you're not being held accountable to the goals that you set. Like, people want to be on the top and want to win.
Right.
Well, there has to be some form of accountability if that's going to happen. And that's from the top all the way down. But when you start complaining about somebody pushing you too hard, that's
when
an
you've
issue.
done nothing.
Right.
I don't understand. But there's 2 other things that people are not talking about nationally, and I want to bring them also to this same conversation. Number one, I am convinced that those players who came to you to address that came to you privately.
Mm-hmm.
So why are you outing them publicly? So now we have a trust issue, sir. I can't come to my head coach privately and express an issue that I have without him taking it to the media. And then the other thing is, if you're Eric Bieniemy, you can't talk to me privately about this and not bring our private conversation. So Washington right off the bat starts with a complete distrust issue from the very top of their on-field organization. That's wild to me. I've never listen. There's been some wild stuff that's happened with these coaches this offseason. From that to Sean Payton's thing, I still don't get Sean Payton's thing. I don't understand that at all. Like, why he went after Nathaniel Hackett, other than maybe he was trying to instill some kind of confidence in Russell Wilson. Which, by the way, all of this again can be done privately. Doesn't have to be done in the media. I don't know. It's been a weird offseason this
Right, because it's weird because they can't even blame the media for stuff getting out because they said it in front of microphones on camera.
I'm telling you, this Ron Rivera thing is so bizarre to me because it just came out of it. Seemingly
Tell
came
him,
out
Cujo.
like nowhere.
So the Sean Payton thing was the wildest thing.
Sean Payton thing was bro.
Did you see the Sean Payton thing, Charlotte?
I heard it.
Yeah.
And I heard the responses.
It's turned into Pac and Biggie real quick.
Yeah. I heard the rebuttal from the other side. And, then people were talking about Aaron Rodgers. Why is he, sticking up for his coach? And he should be thinking about other stuff. And I'm like, man, the man is the leader.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't say anything, he's going to get killed. If he does say something about it, he's going to get killed. And so it's regardless, he's going to get killed regardless, one way or the other.
And by the way, Charlie,
talked about it to say.
And by the way, after watching Hard Knocks on Tuesday, you hit it right on the head. He is the leader. It appears that everyone in the organization has surrendered all of the leadership of the Jets over to Aaron Rodgers. That must have been his contract because the way they were gushing over him, did you see that pass? Did you see? Oh my God, that's amazing. I was like, y'all got to calm down. It's
like watching Greeny an extra hour every day.
Yeah, I get why Mike Greenberg does it because he's a legitimate fan.
Mm-hmm.
But you're the head coach of the Jets. Calm down. You've been in the league a long time, Robert Saleh. You've seen good passes. This ain't the first time. Calm down.
I don't know. Look at who Robert Sala's had quarterback.
I get it. I get it.
He hasn't exactly had a Hall of Famer.
No, I get that part, but I'm saying you got to calm down. Because listen, number one, you're playing against the same guys every day, so Aaron Rodgers is going to figure out guys he sees every day. So he's going to make great passes in practice.
I can name a quarterback who hasn't.
Who's that?
Mine.
Well, you know what's
your
funny
quarterback?
about
Dak Prescott.
Yeah, you know Dak.
Dak is solid.
Dak threw 3 interceptions yesterday in practice.
He did. But again, you've seen this guy. By the way, Charlie, I would love to get your opinion on this one. Trayvon Diggs was caught on social media and phone, basically telling Dak that he was a little B. And he needed to roll out or get the ball out or something to that effect. But it ended in him calling him a B.
And it ended in Dak throwing the football at him.
Right, and then Dak, yeah. I was going to ask that it ever happened in a Knicks practice, but I probably already answered my own question when I said Knicks. So
that probably happened just in the morning before they even got on the court.
I mean, all that stuff happens, especially if you're going to be in a training camp and all of that.
Nobody wants to be there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's a mundane, everyday, playing against one another type thing. It's
so
a different.
There's a disrespect thing going on at all.
I mean, it probably is. I mean, but that happens a lot.
Okay.
On quite a few teams.
Every team.
But then you have to talk it out, talk it through, and get everybody back on the same page.
I mean, Charlie, I would imagine during the summer, the offense and the defense are constantly fighting with each other in the summer.
I wouldn't say fighting, but the trash talking.
Right.
And
that's what I meant.
About my team, this summer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were playing pickup ball, and they're talking trash back and forth to one another. And it doesn't get to a point where it's heated because everyone understands that, if it does, there's consequences. Right. But they just take it and keep moving, And my motto for my guys is, if a guy's going to talk trash to you, then you just got to beat him on the floor.
Right.
Don't sit there and talk don't talk no more.
Yeah.
Now I'm going after you, in every other way on the floor. And that's the way I'm going to talk my trash. And so, it's just, I think testosterone comes into play.
Yeah.
And then if you find somebody that's egging you on, and keeping it going, then it's like, all right, I'm gonna keep it moving, and it's okay. But I just think you get together and you talk through it. I know.
I don't know.
Whitney's talking.
Whitney's up
Whitney.
that
I mean, Cujo is going at it.
I'm very curious to see where all of this is going with all these teams, but definitely going to keep an eye on Broncos, Jets, because that's going to be week
CBS
5.
is loving that. I'm sure that game's on CBS. CBS is
loving that. Yeah, but see, I think there's a flex option to put it on NBC. I'm not 100% sure NBC's not going to try to grab that game, especially if they both come in like undefeated or with like maybe one loss. You might, if you're NBC, you might pivot. Be like,
at that point, with as much hype as with everything, they could both be 1-4 or whatever. And they may try to make a play for that game.
It could be an interesting pickup, late pickup, or flex option. So, guys, this has been a wild summer in college sports, and nobody experienced as much wildness.
I keep looking back at the TV screen and looking down at Twitter just to see if anything's changed.
Yeah, I've been looking as well. There's been a lot of weird activity going on the last couple of days, and a lot of background stuff. I'm curious to see what the weekend is going to unfold. I feel like something big's about to break this weekend. So
yeah, I feel like Friday, because everything happens on Fridays anyway because they can get away from it over the weekend.
Yeah, right.
This is why we call it the Friday news dump.
Yeah.
We got quite accustomed to that when Rick Pitino was at U of L. Everything always happened on Fridays.
Get ready.
So I would not be surprised if some news breaks tomorrow.
I would think so. And just like it did last Friday, So interesting news. You guys got any shout outs?
I'm gonna shout out my homeboy Brandon Wharton. He was a point guard at Tennessee back in the day. We was best friends, and like his parents moved away when we were kids, and the next time I discovered him when I was in college, just flipping channels, and landed on a Tennessee game, and there he is. But so we've reunited. We've been boys ever since. His birthday is today.
Oh.
And my birthday is tomorrow, so we always try to celebrate our birthday somewhat together. He lives in Nashville now, so we don't get to celebrate as much. But shout out to him. That's my boy. Happy birthday!
Is your birthday today?
Tomorrow.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, his birthday. Brandon's birthday today.
Gotcha. Okay, I was like, your birthday today? We got another day. Okay.
Nah, his birthday is today. So
gotcha. All right, Charlie, what you got going for us, brother?
We lost his sound. He must have been muting Cujo.
Whitney.
I'm trying to stop this dog from taking over the podcast.
Having a day. But I'm gonna shout out my Seminoles football team for having a very good summer in the recruiting. They're up to the number 4 right now. They've been locking down some solid prospects. Of course, this is summer, so anything can happen. But sounds like the guys they have are committed to the process. So I'm just happy and excited for the season to come. But I'm also excited that we have some quality players.
No more sleeping, Charlie. Committed. No more sleeping.
Nap time is over.
No more flying under the radar.
There's none of that, sir.
None of that. You're back to being the nose. Look at that Ryan smile. Give him a flex for that.
The days of obscurity are over.
Give him a humble flex for that.
We're still sleeping. We're sleeping John.
Does seem fitting, doesn't it?
And that was a Charlie Ward humble flex.
How did I get that?
Well, listen,
like Steph Curry at that Paramore concert the other
day. you trying to keep hiding Florida State is the most humble flex thing of all time. that is not a reality in any way, form, or fashion, sir. Not this season.
You can't hide it with that smile either.
By the way, the ACC needs Florida State to be dominant this year.
I'm looking forward to seeing Florida State and Clemson this year. I'm intrigued with Clemson just to see where is this thing going, because I mean, honestly, that table seems a little bit wobbly.
Yeah,
but I'm interested to see. I'm anxious. I'm excited to see Florida State back and see Doak Campbell, full again. See Florida State with expectations again, and just to see them fully back and not flying under the radar like somebody on this panel likes to say they are all the time. I want to see the full-fledged Florida State I grew up watching this man down here. Right. And I want to see those expectations and everything, and see them live. I want to see them live up to that. I want to see Florida State return to being Florida State.
I'll only build on what you just said and saying this. It is very likely that a Florida State dominant year could save the ACC. Single-handedly save the ACC. It's going to be hard to break up a conference if your team just won the national championship or at least made the playoffs.
You need Florida State. You need Clemson.
They both got to be good. And it'd be nice to see Louisville sneak in there in Miami.
And you need May at North Carolina to live up to his hype because they're talking. If he can be in the Heisman conversation, they even talking about him winning it. I think Jordan's going to give him a run down at Florida State.
Oh yeah,
but if you can have a quarterback in the Heisman running and a team in the playoff and another couple of teams really have solid seasons, finish the season in the top 15, I think you've building a whole lot of momentum for the conference.
You start having some other conversations. So, well, obviously we can't, leave the broadcast without giving our brother his happy birthday dues here. I mean, come on.
Happy birthday to you.
Look at that. I did not see that coming.
I did not see that coming at all.
Shout out to the Stevie Charlie Ward. Yeah,
the dulcet tones of Charlie Ward. Put that on my resume, Charlie Ward. Wish me something happy birthday.
You set a standard now. That's the expectation, Charlie. We both want that song on our birthdays now. It's in March, so you got plenty of time to prepare. So,
Charlie, when's your birthday?
October 12th.
I was gonna say his is coming up. Yeah, his is during football season. So yeah, I always remember that y'all's is around football season. I'm the odd man out. Mine's in basketball season.
And yours is in like when we're so busy that we kind of gloss over it because I'm usually gone.
Mine's is real quick. March, boom, we out.
I'm usually not even on the show.
Yeah, you may not even be here. Yeah, you'll be chasing down Louisville and Kentucky. So yeah,
it's gonna be a big year for UK.
My shout out is very simple. I'm glad to see us back together today, and we're building that momentum. At some point, we're going to get away from conference talk and get into some actual football talk here. I don't know if that's next week, depending on what happens tomorrow. I don't know if that's next week or not, but we might get into it next week and see what happens, and go from there. But I'm just excited about sports in general. It's been a fun, much funner summer than I thought it would be. Like this was
it's much more busy than
busy than I thought it would be, for sure. So. I'm looking forward to seeing where this all.
And shout out to Deuce Vaughn. He's been having a great training camp so far.
Hey, I'm not happy about that. I wasn't happy when they got him, but I'm really not happy now because that is a problem.
I'm so happy.
That is a problem because he's looking like Darren Sproles 3.0.
And Darren Sproles used to kill Dallas.
Oh my God!
Every team he played, no matter who he played for, if Dallas was on the schedule, Darren Sproles would tear Dallas up. So I'm glad we got Darren Sproles 2.0.
Man, he's looking like a cross between Darren Sproles and LaShawn McCoy when he was in his prime.
Do not mention Shady.
It's a problem. I was
never a fan of LaShawn McCoy.
I didn't say I was a fan. I'm not a fan. I'm just saying it's a problem.
To the Vaughn family, because I said,
shout out to you.
All right, Stevie, real quick. Deuce Vaughn's mom was one of the first people I met when I got to Murray.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Went to college with both of his parents. And so
okay.
Oh wow.
Murray, she's one of the first people I met. One of the sweetest people I'll ever meet.
That was sweet, and I appreciate you bringing them up.
And that was a humble flex.
And with that, we will take our leave. You guys have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. You've been listening to Believe in the ACC with Charlie Ward, Lloyd Spence, and Kendrick Haskins. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share from the Noisemakers page on Facebook and on YouTube. And you can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, and wherever podcasts can be heard. And join us next time